Good morning, afternoon, or evening, ladies and gentlemen. Allincrypto here, and welcome back, guys, for another daily cryptocurrency market update. And if you are new around here, every single day at 1 p.m., we release an update just like this one to help you guys stay up to date with the latest and greatest things happening within the crypto space and also the markets. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing in this video. It's been a great start to October so far. We're only 2 days in, and the short-term price action for Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market seems to be sorting itself out. We are going to be covering that. We're going to be reminding people that we are still in a kind of dangerous zone. And actually, we could still be looking at a downside scenario depending on what Bitcoin does in the short term. And we are going to be recapping on that. Yesterday, we do a weekly meeting on Patreon where we actually looked at this being very likely in regards to short-term upside. You can see we had an inverse head and shoulders that you played out perfectly to target as a result. But you are still in this range. You do need to get back above 28,500 and hold it. You don't want to see a rejection here that could take us into a kind of downside head and shoulder scenario, which could lead us to 20K. So we are going to be covering that. We are going to be looking at sort of recent news within the crypto space. But I really want to start things off with one of the asset managers from Franklin Temple, who, of course, are in the race for a spot Bitcoin ETF, talking about this industry and where it's going, because I truly do believe, and this is why this channel was spawned, that there is a life-changing opportunity through being a crypto investor that is here right now. Blockchain, distributed ledgers, crypto is changing the entire world, and we're getting more and more confirmation of that by the day. And I really want to start things off with this clip because I think it really puts into perspective one aspect of this industry that is literally changing everything. And there are many ways that distributed ledgers are changing things, but this is a great take, and I thought we'd start the video off here before we dive into some technicals, some macro sort of boringy stuff, and everything in between.
Bitcoin is the greatest distraction from the greatest disruption that is coming to financial services. I think AI is probably the other big disruption there, but and there's so much noise around a lot of things like FTX and others. But if you bring the technology down to its core value, it does three things. One is it allows a payment mechanism. Number two, it allows smart contracts to be programmed into the token. And three, because it's a general ledger, it has a source of truth. So whoever has that token, all rights in that token are granted to that person. So if I sell it to Frank, I don't have to go through a third party to do it. Frank gets it, and Frank gets all the rights. So my favorite example is Rihanna, who came out with, right before the Super Bowl, and I know she's just testing the market in this, 300 NFTs, each one worth 0.00033% royalties on one of her biggest songs. Well, why can she do that? She can do it because when Spotify plays a Rihanna song, it can capture, the smart contract executes and says, I owe royalties here. And so nobody has to be involved in it. And it can take the fractional payment and go to, because Frank's a big Rihanna fan, so it goes to his account, and he owns a couple of those. and he's paid, right? So now think about any way in which you have revenue streams or royalty streams that you can now start to fractionalize that or democratize that, and think about how that is an uncorrelated asset to all the traditional assets. So other examples is, I think that athletes are they'll sign a big contract, they'll say to their fans, I'm going to sell off, tokens worth 10% of my future revenue stream. I'm going to, 100,000 tokens, and boom, the fans are going to probably pay a premium for it. So it will be a way, and if you think about it, it's just securitization done on steroids. And it's merely that this technology is enabling it, and it's also enabling other very interesting companies that will disrupt some of the traditional business models that we have today.
Very interesting. Her opening statement about Bitcoin is a great distraction from kind of what's really going on here. We think Bitcoin is very important. It plays an important role. We do think it's nothing short of a success, and we champion Bitcoin. We think it's brought about real change and questions that needed to be asked in regards to finance, money, and everything in between. But there is an entire transformation of everything taking place, and distributed ledgers at the heart of it. Finance is just what we find most applicable. But she mentioned things like, tokenized rights over the music industry and things like this. That can be applied to any industry. I don't think people quite grasp and I don't mean to sound condescending here at all, the scale that things are going to be transformed by this technology, and that's what we're here to keep people on the scent of, is what's really happening here. So let's move on to a little bit of crypto news before we dive straight into the price action, because it's important for us to keep a level head. Okay, we've assessed that crypto spring is here. Me and my community have been buying altcoins now and crypto during this period here. Okay, we do assess that crypto spring has arrived, and we think Bitcoin, like always, is leading the charge, and we think we've got the macro environment right. Where we differ with the bears is on this crash, okay, is on things like the yield curve playing out and the timing with that. You know, we happen to think there's a lagged effect with rates, and actually the markets rally right up into a recession, which is still to come, but we think we've got a longer runway than many of the bears. So we do assess the crypto spring is here. Let's cover a little bit of news before we dive into some price action. You had the Bank of International Settlements Innovation Head says, like crypto or not, central banks need to prepare. They absolutely do. We know the Bank of International Settlements has worked with the likes of Quant Network, which we've highlighted time and time again. We see Chainlink making absolute moves. Today, you had an announcement, and if you guys come over to allincrypto.com, which is our kind of news outlet website, Coinbase expands its reach into Singapore with a new payments license. They also were granted, and if you don't like reading, we do have an AI bot that will read it to you. They were also granted a license within Spain. I think Coinbase, and it's something we're discussing actively in my community, and I'm going to take the drawers off because I don't really want to spoil anything, but Coinbase is going to be a $1,000, $2,000 plus dollar stock. And that's all I'm going to say on that. A little bit of boring macro-y stuff. You've got the Bank of Japan hikes bond buying as benchmark yields hit record peak. So we've looked at this from a macro. We did a great video on Sunday called Why Central Banks Will Print Again, where we actually looked at this and we assessed that more so than anything driving monetary policy right now is going to be the bond market, more so than inflation. And it's very interesting how we've seen bond continued capitulation. And we've seen all central banks go, whoa, let's take it easy here. You've got to remember the bond market, the treasury market, most notably, is central to finance. It's the cornerstone of it. It's the top of the food chain. And ultimately, everything's going to move with that. So I think markets are sniffing out a bit of an end of things. I think they're sniffing out that we're going to have to do something similar to perhaps, you know, I think the entire world is moving into a kind of Japanish style economy, which is a bold statement for me to make. But I think markets are sniffing this out. It's looking like we're going to have a good open for the US stock market. Gold has been getting smashed. Actually, gold, I like gold bugs because they fight the same fight that we fight as Bitcoiners. Okay, and I would definitely call myself a Bitcoiner, even though I'm not a Bitcoin maxi. However, if you look at gold, this is Bitcoin divided by the money supply. If you look at gold divided by the money supply, it's a sad story. And actually, the gold bugs will maybe one day be very, very right, but they've been very, very wrong for years. And I like the fact that gold is an asset outside of the system. It's kind of universally accepted as valuable. But in terms of markets, you know, it's been a lackluster. I think for me, gold is a security trade. It's like a safety trade, if you will. You know, you want to be caught with it rather than without it if something does happen. But it's one of those trades that you're going to be very wrong on until all of a sudden you can be very right. But moving on to Bitcoin, it's a good start to the month. We have continued to reiterate that we think this is a stage 2 breakout. We are teaching stage analysis in my Patreon, so please do consider joining. There's lots of value out of there. You get my entire portfolio. You get weekly updates with me and my daily thoughts on the markets in more of a compact form. You also get access to all our early interviews. You are still in a bit of a danger zone here. Yes, it's positive. Yes, we've seen that strength, but you've got to clear this resistance right here, in my opinion. You've got to get above it. Until then, you're really still trapped in this range. And there is still the scenario that you come down hard, which would filter into a lot of what we've previously spoken about, which is, you know, we've spotted a 5-wave move here. We're not Elliotticians. We think Elliott wave, I think for me personally, is better timing on the larger term markets and the shorter. This is still a real scenario. And this is the downside that you're looking at. You need to get above 28,500 and continue to make your way higher. Then you are going to execute this pattern and you're going to slice through what is very thin price action. It's like a pocket of hot air, if you will. And you're going to see the upside. I've got to give it to ourselves, guys. We've been keeping people on this trend despite the absolute FUD storm that we've been getting day in, day out. And we've been very right on the markets, you know, for a long time now. You know, we got, and we always admit this, how the bull market was going to end wrong, but we quickly pivoted, got out, and got back in when we thought the time was right. So this is still the downside. You have got a lot to do. I did highlight on my Patreons yesterday that this was a very likely scenario that you were going to get this inverse head and shoulders that gave us a projected target of 28,500. So we expected that as a run. Look at where you ran into and hit. I would like to see perhaps something like this, a coiling up, a taking, and then we see that upside continuation. You know, crypto is inevitable at this point. We also highlighted a number of altcoins like Solana. We love a nice double bottom. This has done a monstrous move since we sort of spotted it out. And we actually think that there's quite a few other altcoins that looked pretty good. Actually, Ethereum, we highlighted as looking pretty good. You know, if you look at Dow theory, this is a downtrend. And this pullback of the trend is ascending. This is descending. We want to see descending structures in basing, not ascending structures, because that isn't basing. That's likely bull flagging into further continuation. Guys, like, comment, subscribe, get on board with this channel. We are going to be the biggest crypto channel because of the kind of content that we give out and the kind of understanding that we have of the markets. So get on board that wave before the ship really does take off. But generally, we think things look good. We just think that we need to see a bit more before we get confident on the short-term bullish side. And we've said, look, we'll let the market show us. The market's showing us. Let's see if things continue. You've still got a macro nightmare to compete with. But again, factoid here, the market rallies within 2% of 2 months of a recession. So it rallies right into a recession and only starts to price it when it's a lot closer. And we don't think a recession is coming, and we're getting data that supports that for a little while now. So I've rambled on for long enough. Happy Monday, guys. Great start to the week. Let's hope it continues. Let me know what altcoins you guys are looking at. We're going to be doing reviews on a number of them as we can see them. We might do 3 altcoins to watch in October coming out later on today. But on that note, that's really all I've got for you. I'm going to love and leave you. Be careful. Look for a harsh rejection. That's going to set up for downside, or look for continuation and continued progress. That's going to set up for upside. Crypto's inevitable, guys. The revolution is here, and I want you guys all to be taking part in it. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. See you in the next.